the first battle. Most people lose their entire day within the first 90 seconds of being awake, not because they are lazy, not because they lack ambition, but because a decision gets made in the dark, half-conscious, before the mind is even fully online, and that decision quietly writes the script for everything that follows. You already know the moment. The alarm cuts through the silence, and somewhere between sleep and waking, a negotiation begins. One side wants 5 more minutes. The other side knows there won't be just 5. Here's what almost nobody tells you. This negotiation is not really about sleep, it's about identity. Because the version of you that wins that first argument is the version of you that shows up for the rest of the day. Bruce Lee never spoke about mornings directly, but everything he built, the speed, the precision, the terrifying self-control, came from a mind that had already won its first fight before the sun came up. This is not a routine. This is a battle. And it happens every single day, whether you notice it or not. The comfort trap. Right after you wake up, your brain is at its most persuasive and its most dishonest. There's a reason for this. During sleep, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for judgment, discipline, and long-term thinking, takes time to fully power back on. Meanwhile, the parts of your brain that crave comfort, warmth, and immediate relief are already wide awake. So for those first few minutes, you're not negotiating with your full mind. You're negotiating with the weakest, most primitive version of it. This is why the excuses at 6 in the morning sound so convincing. I'll just check my phone for a second. I've earned a few more minutes. Today doesn't really matter that much. These thoughts feel true in the moment, not because they are true, but because the part of your brain built to protect you from effort is the only one currently in the room. Think about that for a second. The voice talking you out of discipline isn't wiser than you, it's just earlier than you. Bruce Lee trained for years to close that gap, the space between impulse and action. He once said that the successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Not superhuman, just faster at closing that window where comfort tries to take control. Your mornings are that window. Every single day. Bruce Lee's hidden morning principle. Here's something most people miss when they study Bruce Lee. He wasn't obsessed with intensity. He was obsessed with control. Anyone can be intense for a day. Very few people can be controlled for a lifetime, and control, in his world, meant one thing above all: the ability to respond instead of react. Reacting is automatic. It's what happens when the alarm goes off and your hand reaches for the phone before your eyes are even open. Responding is different. It requires a half-second gap between the impulse and the action, a gap where you, the actual thinking person, get to decide what happens next. This is the hidden principle behind everything Bruce Lee built. Not speed for its own sake, not aggression, but the discipline to create that half-second gap again and again until it became who he was. Most mornings are lost in that missing half-second. The phone reaches your hand before your mind has said yes. The snooze button gets pressed before you've even registered the decision. You're not choosing. You're reacting on autopilot, and autopilot always chooses comfort. The warrior's version of the morning isn't about willpower. It's about inserting that gap back in on purpose until responding becomes the default instead of the exception. Why your mind chooses easy. There's a reason the easy choice always feels louder than the right one. And it has nothing to do with weakness. Your brain is wired by evolution to conserve energy. For most of human history, unnecessary effort could get you killed hunting when you didn't need to. Exploring when you could rest meant burning calories you might not get back. So, your brain developed a default setting: when in doubt, choose the option that costs less energy. That setting made sense 10,000 years ago. It makes almost no sense now. But the wiring hasn't updated. Which means every single morning, your brain is still running ancient software, quietly nudging you toward whatever takes the least effort, even when the effortful choice is the one that would actually change your life. This is why willpower alone rarely wins. You're not fighting laziness, you're fighting millions of years of biology that rewards you for doing less. Bruce Lee understood something crucial about this fight. You don't beat biology by force, you beat it by design. He didn't rely on motivation, because motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable at 6 in the morning. He relied on structure routines so specific, so automatic, that the ancient brain never got a vote. That's the real secret hiding underneath every disciplined person you've ever admired. They didn't out-willpower their biology, they out-designed it. The warrior's first hour. If comfort has a design, discipline needs one too, and it starts with removing decisions, not adding motivation. Every decision you make in the morning drains a small amount of mental energy, even the tiny ones. What to wear, whether to check your phone, whether to get up now or in 10 minutes. Each of these seems insignificant alone. Together, they quietly exhaust the exact resource you need most, the will to keep choosing discipline over comfort. This is why the most self-controlled people you'll ever meet often look boring on the outside. Their mornings aren't exciting, they're automatic. The decision of what happens after waking up was made the night before, or years before, until it stopped being a decision at all. Bruce Lee trained with a kind of monotony that would bore most people to tears. The same movements, the same drills, thousands of times. Not because repetition was thrilling, but because repetition removed the need for motivation. He didn't have to convince himself to train. Training was simply what happened next. That's the actual warrior's first hour. Not intensity, not inspiration, just a sequence so familiar that the ancient, comfort-seeking brain has nothing left to argue about. The fewer decisions your morning requires, the fewer chances comfort gets to win. Building an unbreakable morning. Here's a question worth sitting with. If your morning routine depended on how you felt that day, would it survive a bad night's sleep? A stressful week? A single moment of low motivation? For most people, the honest answer is no. And that's the actual design flaw, not the person, the routine itself. An unbreakable morning isn't built on feeling ready. It's built on requiring nothing from how you feel at all. This sounds strange at first, almost cold. But it's exactly how Bruce Lee approached mastery. He didn't train on the days he felt inspired and rest on the days he didn't. He built a structure so consistent that his emotional state became irrelevant to whether the work got done. Psychologists call this an implementation intention, deciding in advance, with painful specificity, what you will do and when. Not I'll exercise in the morning, but the moment my feet touch the floor, I put on the clothes already laid out the night before. The vague version leaves room for negotiation. The specific version leaves none. This is the quiet difference between people who talk about discipline and people who actually have it. It was never about having more motivation than everyone else. It was about needing less of it in the first place. An unbreakable morning doesn't ask how you feel. It simply begins. The psychology of consistency. There's a strange kind of math that governs identity, and almost nobody learns it early enough. You don't become disciplined from one extraordinary morning. You become disciplined from ordinary mornings, repeated until your brain stops treating them as a choice and starts treating them as who you are. Neuroscientists describe this through something called habit consolidation, the process by which repeated behavior gradually shifts from effortful, conscious decision-making into near automatic execution, handled by a different part of the brain entirely. In simple terms, the first time you get up without negotiating, it feels like willpower. The 50th time, it barely feels like anything. It just feels like you. This is precisely why Bruce Lee valued consistency over intensity, and said so directly. He once explained that he feared not the man who had practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who had practiced one kick 10,000 times. The lesson isn't really about kicks. It's about what repetition does to a person's identity over time. Every morning you win the first battle, you're not just having a good day. You're casting a small invisible vote for the kind of person you are. And every morning you lose it, you're voting the other way, even if the rest of your day goes fine. Nobody becomes disciplined in a single moment. They become disciplined in thousands of small, forgettable ones that nobody else ever sees. The morning identity shift. Somewhere in this repetition, something shifts that has nothing to do with productivity at all. At first, getting up on time feels like something you do. You force it. You negotiate with yourself, and some mornings you win, some mornings you don't. But if you stay consistent long enough, a quiet transformation happens. The action stops being something you do and starts being something you are. This is the actual finish line, and almost nobody names it correctly. The goal was never to build a perfect routine. The goal was to become someone for whom the routine simply makes sense, someone who doesn't need to talk themselves into rising early, because rising early is just an expression of who they've already become. This is what people misunderstand most about figures like Bruce Lee. They study his discipline as if it were a performance, something he did on top of who he was. But discipline that has to be performed every day eventually collapses under its own weight. Real discipline stops being effort and becomes identity. He wasn't forcing himself to train. Training was simply what a person like him did because of who he had already decided to be. That shift from action to identity is the actual prize hiding inside every disciplined morning. Not the habit itself, but the person the habit quietly builds you into. The final challenge. So here is the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath everything you've just heard. Nothing about this requires more time. It doesn't require waking up at some sacred hour, or owning the right equipment, or reading the right books. It requires one thing only: winning that first half-second gap between the impulse toward comfort and the choice to respond instead. That gap is small. It's almost invisible. And it is, without exaggeration, the most important moment of your entire day, because it decides which version of you shows up for the other 23 hours. Bruce Lee put it simply, and it applies to nothing more directly than this exact moment each morning. As you think, so shall you become. Tomorrow morning, before your feet even touch the floor, one decision will already be forming in the dark, the same one that's been quietly shaping your life this whole time. What's the very first decision you're going to change, and why? Share your answer below. Your story might become the reason someone else finally changes theirs.